here at Frankie Stocks has been paying close attention to all of us for us. He joins us as
your top 3 stories in 3 minutes from your base reporter, Frankie Stocks. This is the Base Report.
So earlier this afternoon, had a whole lot of fun with the boy Jake Shields. I was on Kick with him. Actually, we made the front page of Kick. Talked for about an hour, and during that conversation, of course, Erica Kirk came up because, as I told you, Brian Harpole and Harmeet Dillon's law firm have sent me a bunch of demands about what I'm going to do with the content on my phones and my computers and my tablets. Like, yeah, no. F off, dude. Who do you think you are? Honestly. I'm doing a really good job here, by the way, trying to watch the F words. But while I was talking to Jake Shields, of course, all that came up. And nobody believes that, Charlie Kirk was killed by a stolen rifle held by Tyler Robinson, the cross-eyed sniper who loves transgenders and furries and scales buildings like Spider-Man and is able to cloak himself and just go on the run while leaving trails of perfectly wrapped evidence behind so they can convict him. Everybody knows that's not true, but a lot of people don't know about this airplane business. They don't know about the plane stuff, specifically what I broke here on this program, and that I would love to tell Candace Owens' audience, is that we learned that the plane that's primarily used by Pete Hegseth flew to Fort Huachuca 2 days before Charlie Kirk was killed, and then 30 days later, as the AES production facility, the explosives manufacturing facility that filled a contract to the Department of Defense for micro explosives just ahead of Charlie Kirk's assassination, blew up that day. 23,000 pounds of explosives. Everybody in there died. Everybody is dead. And meanwhile, Pete Hegseth's plane, the plane that he almost exclusively uses, 990404, under a SAM call sign, flies from Joint Base Andrews back out to Fort Huachuca, and on its way home, just happens to fly over this smoldering facility where there's nothing left. As if to inspect, to make sure that there was no trace of evidence of this place left, that there was no sign of life anywhere. Reducing its airspeed, reducing its altitude, and, all of this is confirmable. You can go right now to, FlightAware, Flight Radar. You can download the app on your tablet, your computer, whatever. You can see the flight tracks. You can see the airspeed and altitude that they were reducing at the time that he was flying over. Anyway, Jake knew nothing about that, which tells me that there's a whole lot of people that don't know about that. And that's the dangers of the suppression that we face. 92% on X, 90% on Rumble, not allowed on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. And he knew nothing about that. If more people knew about that, so I think I'm going to talk about that everywhere that I go from here on out. Because people need to know that, I would think. This was a high-level military operation, in my opinion. And it came up, of course, because Harmeet Dillon's law firm, which is representing apparently Brian Harpole, whose security office is located 11 minutes from the gates of Fort Huachuca, who's like Charlie Kirk's head of security guy who lied on Sean Ryan's podcast, that CIA show, and said something about, drones not being allowed there, and then Frank Turk is like, there were drones all over the place. Well, you can see drones there. And then Joe Kent, poking around because he knows that there's drone footage, probably ended up at Fort Huachuca when the investigation was shut down because he wanted that footage. Because nobody believes that Tyler Robinson acted alone and used his grandfather's .30-06 to shoot Charlie Kirk and his Superman-like neck bones of steel. It's just nobody believes that. So Joe Kent probably very likely was, pressured out, but resigned nonetheless and published a resignation letter that was obviously very scathing, and has been on the podcast tour talking about the fact that he thought that there was indication there could be foreign ties to Charlie Kirk's death. Well, do you think there might be? I mean, I don't need to be an intel asset to tell you that, because Charlie Kirk was saying that shit on his show every day. Charlie Kirk was saying that. He was saying, oh, look, well, we're occupied. Banking and finance, Hollywood, academia. He was going on with Ben Shapiro and saying these things. So anyway, that's going to be my mission, to get on as many platforms as I can and talk about that. And you guys should be sharing all of that as well. That needs to get out there. That's a big deal. And on the same day, by the way, the 10th Mountain Division just going away and handing over its responsibilities to its rival, 101st Airborne. That's a little bit weird. It's really weird. And the odds of that, when you put it into Grok, all of these different variables that you can confirm, These aren't theories. These are facts that you can confirm. This is publicly available information that I'm talking about here. And the odds of all of that happening were incalculable, according to Grok, which is like, some Jewish supercomputer. They can do math. They know what you are thinking before you think it, according to Yuval Noah Harari. They know more about you than you know about yourself because they've deleted the God gene, or at least attempted to. They're trying to. They are actively working on that. So Grok says that this is incalculable when you're talking about the odds of all of this stuff occurring on this one day and the players that are involved being potentially Pete Hegseth. I don't know, it was his plane, so I guess he's involved. The government's definitely involved. It was a special intermission flight, and SAM flights can only be authorized or ordered by the president or the vice president of the United States. This isn't like, it's not even just the FBI director. It is a high-ranking cabinet official or somebody that is doing the business of the president of the United States or the vice president, sending a message on behalf of or receiving a message for one of those two people. They're the only two people in the world that can order up that flight. So this isn't stuff that I'm just like dreaming up. I don't like lay around at home and take a couple of American hemp hub gummies and, just whip all of this up and daydream this shit. This is like easily verifiable, publicly available, confirmable information. It is fact. It's on the record. That plane went to Fort Huachuca 2 days before Charlie Kirk was killed. That plane went back to Fort Huachuca the day that the 10th Mountain Division just went away, only months after receiving a promotion. A division promotion, promoted to HQ, command HQ status, given like $100 million in technology and toys and buildings and new unit flags. And then they just went away. That day is the same day that the plane almost exclusively used by Pete Hegseth flew from Joint Base Andrews to Fort Huachuca. The 10th Mountain Division is gone silently, quietly, with no presidential letters of commendation, no parades, no ceremonies, no TV, no handshakes, no parties, no, Spider Cash wasn't there popping bottles of champagne, getting drunk in the locker room. There was none of that shit going on. It just went away quietly, all at once. And then on that same day, that explosives manufacturing production facility, Accurate Energetic Systems, just boom, gone, killing everyone inside. And while it's smoldering, that plane almost exclusively used by Hegseth leaves Fort Huachuca on a direct back to Joint Base Andrews, but then just whoop. Come on. I mean, the odds of this all happening, even Grok says, are incalculable, and people don't know about this. I think that they should. It's my opinion they should know about this. All right. I see him in the green room. He's got his tie on, hair slicked back, mustache shaved. The clean cut Frankie Stocks, 3 minutes. We'll put the timer up right now. Hold on, don't start it yet. We'll put the timer up right now. I just gotta know, are you gonna start with the alien story?
No, I'm not gonna start the alien story, but I'm gonna talk.
Do you know anything about? You are gonna talk about aliens?
I am gonna talk
okay.
about the aliens.
All right, that's important to me. I'm not gonna dictate what you say or the way that you say it or the order that you say it in. I just want to kind of brace myself to know, because when I leave the studio tonight, if I see some weird stuff going on in the sky, there's, some gelatin type bendy figure, looking at me from around the corner, big eyes. I want to know what's happening. All right, we can start the clock. The base report starts right now.
My family doesn't believe me when I say that I stopped hearing the ringing only with a 7-second trick before sleeping. 7 out of 10 Americans already show signs of ringing in the...
All right, yeah, everybody be ready for the aliens. We'll get to that in just a moment, but before we do, I want to start with this. The lead story on Israel Hayom, which is the biggest Globo Jewish Zionist website, news agency, propaganda arm that there is. They say Israel demands removal of all uranium from Iran, prepares for escalation. Israeli security officials believe Trump still wants to exhaust negotiations with Tehran. Now, again, that's the headline over on Israel Hayom, and this is as across Israeli media, the Netanyahu regime, they have been publicly threatening an American.
I mean, you're talking about Jews and, subversive behavior. I had to do it. I was seeing if you can hold it together. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, it's perfect timing. But seriously, they've been threatening across Israeli media. The same Israeli media, by the way, that was sharing talking points at one point in time with that guy you just had on the screen, Lucas Gage or his identity to this week. But anyways, across Israeli media, they are really fretting the prospect that the American people may be too much for this government to overcome, and that they're too scared of the response from the American people, and they're just going to say, hey, you know what, look, we've got to walk away. Unless you're going to release the tapes and put us into a situation like that one right there, we've got to walk away from this thing. And so now Israel's saying, look, hey, we're full-scale escalation. It's time right now. And remember, Trump said just the other week, we're ready for a ground invasion. And so the response to that was vitriolic from the people. The government is starting to look like they actually may be scared of the American people in this circumstance. I think they know that the draft isn't going to work out. And now Israel's saying it's go time. So this is going to get interesting. And again, across Israeli media, they're saying, hey, we're not satisfied until Iran is completely taken out and all of this uranium that they've already tried to steal once is also taken out right alongside the entire country. But next story here, Vivek Ramaswamy, he won, as they like to call it, the GOP primary in Ohio. They're reporting these Stalinist numbers for him across the state, like 85% in favor of this Indian invader, wins every single county in Ohio. And look, the parties run their primaries, and these aren't legitimate processes in the first place. But on the other hand, this type of people who are still turning out to vote in GOP primaries en masse, these are die-hard, brainwashed remnants of the Trump base who will just sell themselves and
Big
sell
story,
their
by the way. It's all over the place. These people could not wait to get out here and celebrate this victory by, Ramalama Deep State. And when you look at the first article that's pulled up here is from BBC, just celebrating. This is just great. Look at the writer. Kayla Epstein wants you to know that Vivek Ramalama Barefoot is on his way. He has defeated his opponent in the primary, and he is well on his way. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and then on the other side, there's Amy Acton, the so-called Democrat nominee. And you've got the red Zionist and the blue Zionist, and she's a biological warfare criminal. She was running Ohio's flatten the curve response at the start of the pandemic. This is the woman who birthed lockdowns all over Ohio and all over this country at the very start of this pandemic. People should remember this. Ohio was like a national showcase. You would turn on Steve Bannon and he would be interviewing Mike DeWine on how they were the showcase on how the Republicans and how Trump were going to run and how they were going to work with the Democrats to run this pandemic response and lock the world down and lock the country down. So on one side of this, you have a biological warfare criminal, and on the other side of this, you have a human bioweapon. Those are the choices in Ohio. Both of them put in some very obviously rigged partisan processes. And then down in Florida, carrying out a very similar agenda to what Vivek wants to carry out in Ohio is Byron Donalds. Both of these guys are major data center pushers, and Byron Donalds is now publicly declaring that white rural counties across Florida will now play host to data centers. So these people are going to be hooked out of their communities. Their water supplies are going to be drained.
Wow, I didn't even know that either. I didn't know that Byron Donalds was also a data center sellout. But we were all told that he was Mr. A1 populist American conservatist. And here I hear him. So Byron Donalds sold you out to data centers too. But we're supposed to believe he's fucking America first, right?
Some storage, things are for technology. I mean, you can store technology on very small things. You can run technology on very small things. Like, what kind of technology, what kind of super technology takes a building twice the size of Manhattan to facilitate the production of?
Absolute surveillance of everything. And it's, look, on the Texas Panhandle, a very similarly sized data center is going in there, and it's named after Donald Trump. And in the name, they refer to it as a national intelligence center. They're going to be gathering intelligence on every single American citizen. That's what these are all about. And now, actually, you mentioned the tiny size of some of this technology. Well, there's going to be tiny data centers built into every new house in America if NVIDIA gets their way. They'll still build the massive data centers, but then you'll also have tiny data centers for your personal data consumption right there in your wall. And Sam Altman says that they're going to start treating artificial intelligence and information itself as a public utility. And so in addition to your mini data center in the gigantic data center down the street, you're also going to have a meter on the outside of your house that's going to charge you for the amount of information that is pumped into your house. So these people are complete and total totalitarian psychopaths 100% of the way through. And these are also the people who are really, really pushing this alien psyop. And we know why. Because they want us to go running into their arms. That's it. Here it is, the alien story.
Edge of my seat, all right. Here we go.
Yes, I mean, hey, look, they want us to go running into their arms begging for some kind of super state planetary alliance to protect us from the big evil aliens. And now, ahead of the expected disclosures, which Kash Patel is talking about and Laura Trump is talking about, now pastors are being roped in. So just as pastors were pulled into the psyop of telling Americans to support Israel, now pastors, especially these podcast type of pastors, are being pulled into the psyop of alien disclosures. There's a big viral video going around. Pastor Larry Ragland from Alabama, this is probably the most viral video of them all. He's talking about being pulled in to this closed door meeting and you couldn't bring in your cell phones and there were intel guys. Representative Eric Burlison, who's at the center of this whole congressional disclosure psyop, he phones into the meeting, kind of like when Netanyahu phoned into the Charlie Kirk meeting. And now, actually, today, this pastor has kind of walked this back a little bit. He says, yes, there was still the meeting. Yes, Eric Burlison phoned in, but everything that I've said, this is my opinion. But what he has said is that the American people are going to be told, and that Burleson is warning pastors, and these intel guys are warning pastors, prepare your congregations, get them ready, because they're going to be told that aliens are interdimensional beings, and they are actually our creators, and basically God's not real, and this is all interdimensional alien stuff, and we're the seeds of these aliens, and blah, 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 like every Scientology, science fiction, Star Child, mentally ill plot, all rolled into one. And this is a psyop. I mean, that's what this is. I'm sorry. When I was like a teenager, I was really enthused by all of the alien stuff, and it really interested me for a long time. But I mean, this is like Project Bluebeam on steroids here, what we're seeing. And it's also obvious at this point. Go reject Christianity and beg for your super state AI surveillance state overlords to protect you from the aliens. I mean, or their interdimensional creators, or whatever the hell this is. But just like with everything else they're roping into church like so many other American psyops here. But back to you, Stu.
And people will be all over this. Pastors will be all over this. This is the next, Schofield trick.
Yes.
And this is the next you watch. You'll see Greg Locke.
I tried every joint pain treatment for 365 days, and this ended my joint pain overnight. Knee pain, hip pain, and back pain.
Talking about this. They'll try to monetize this and then send all their money to Israel or get their own condo in Jerusalem like Greg Locke and talk about how great Israel is and baptize people in a cattle trough that's, draped in the Israeli 6-pointed devil star flag. It's unbelievable. It's all for the money. These people do all of this for the money. They love money and they love access to money and they love glitz and glam and fancy fast cars and they love having sex with all kinds of young prepubescent girls and boys in many cases. And, they love to be able to get off scot-free while they get off on little kids because they have their dual citizenship and they can just flee to the biggest Epstein Island, in all of the world by just going back to Israel where pedophiles are protected. They just love all of that. It's all for the money and the access and the power, and they crave the fame and the spotlight, and they get off on the lies, because they write this shit in advance. They tell you what they're going to do. I think there's like some sort of if it's like some sort of a pact that they make with the devil because that's the God that they worship is Satan. I wonder if they have some pact, some deal with the devil, and they have to tell you what they're going to do before they do it, because they do every single time. And then we're like, oh, well, they say that they're going to do this. And then it's like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist for saying that we said that we're going to do that. And that's also anti-Semitic, so you're not allowed to say that anymore, so we're going to ban you from everywhere and demonetize you all over the place. And then, I don't know, varying lengths of time after a month. Sometimes it's immediately, sometimes it's 2 years. And then bang, there it is. Well, that's what I said you were gonna do. What are you talking about? We told you we were gonna do that. And what do you mean? We told you we were gonna do that. Oh, sorry. We'll let you back on YouTube after we banned you for, 2 years for COVID disinformation, even though we were the liars and told you what we were gonna do at a time and then did it.
Yeah.
Hey, wear
I think they should also-
Greater Israel on their sleeve, but they call me a conspiracy theorist for saying that. One of the headlines in some recent hit piece, they're almost every day now. I don't know if it was the Rolling Stone this time or the USA Today. One of these recent hit pieces, it talked about that. It says, oftentimes, meddles in conspiracy theories like Greater Israel. What do you mean? Conspiracy theory, Greater Israel. That's your plan. You've got the map. And it keeps expanding, and you keep bringing it to the White House, on your 6 million visits a month, with your dirty laundry and your pig life. It's just unbelievable. These people tell you every time. All right. You were trying to say something. I got about 30 seconds left here.
No, I was just saying, I totally agree. They tell you every single time well in advance, and I think they get off on it. I mean, it's like, look at the way Caroline Levitt was giggling when she said shots were going to be fired at the White House Correspondents' Center. She could barely contain herself. It was giving her all of the relief, we could say, that her elderly husband is not getting. So these people are all sick. But anyways, that's all I want to say. Back to you.
No surprise either that they try to rope in Christianity. It's always a troll on Christianity. Like Joe Rogan was saying to Mel Gibson, I don't know what it is. I don't know what is it. There's like a stigma around Christianity in Hollywood. I can't figure out what that might be. And then, I don't know, Joe. That seems, I don't know. It's the Jews, Joe. It's the Jews. Tomorrow, same place, same time. Until then, God bless you.